Central African leaders chart a common course, committing to always strike a consensus on issues of regional integration in ECAS, whose commission they have entrusted in the hands of a 7-man bureau. The Northwest region looks up to boosting the execution of its public investment budget that got seriously impaired by the devastating socio-political uprising that has grounded the region for over 3 years and counting. Muslims in Cameroon finalize spiritual and material preparations as they look up to celebrating the Feast of Sacrifice, otherwise known as Tabaski, that comes up tomorrow. Those are our lead stories. 7:30 News, I am Ben Menopufon at the anchor.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
You're welcome once again. The acting president of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, has enjoined his peers of the bloc to always seek consensus in matters of regional integration. Ali Bongo Ondimba made the call via video conference today as he opened deliberations of the 17th Ordinary Session of Heads of State and Government Summit of ECAS. As Star Building correspondent Christian Che Atam reports, Prime Minister Joseph John Gute represented President Paul Biya at the online summit that was crowned by the setting up of a 7-man bureau to pilot the business of the ECAS Commission. Christian.
4 speeches marked the opening ceremony of the 17th Ordinary Session of the Summit of Heads of State of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS. The outgoing Secretary General, Ahmad Alamin, highlighted efforts made to modernize the organization. The Special Representative of the UN Secretary General and Head of the UN Regional Office in Central Africa, Francois Luceni Fall, promised to support the organization's efforts towards regional integration. For his part, the President of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, said the modernization process in ECAS will be the solution to the disturbing situation which has left the region with the biggest development potential, the last in terms of regional integration. The current president of ECAS, Gabonese President Ali Bongo Ondimba, requested a minute's silence in honor of the late Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza before officially opening the session. He invited ECAS heads of state to always seek consensus in matters affecting regional integration. Deliberations at the 17th Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Heads of Government of ECAS were geared towards the implementation of widespread reforms adopted by the organization, particularly the election of a new bureau for the ECAS Commission. Angola was elected to chair the commission, with Equatorial Guinea obtaining the post of deputy chair. Chad will head the Political Affairs Commission, Rwanda will lead the Economic Affairs Commission, the Republic of Congo will manage the Natural Affairs Commission, while a Cameroonian, Madame Gankono Marie-Thérèse Chantal Germaine Mfula Ejomo, will head the Commission on Infrastructure, and the DRC will head the Gender Promotion Commission. Prime Minister Joseph John Gute represented the head of state at this 17th Ordinary Session of Heads of State and Heads of Government of the Economic Community of Central African States. The 17th Ordinary Session has brought hope of revival within the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS.
Here now is an excerpt of Cameroon's Prime Minister Joseph John Gute as he addressed today's summit.
We just finished with a very important summit in which I had the privilege of representing President Paul Biya, head of state. A number of very important decisions were taken. A number of instruments have been adopted by the heads of states. And in particular, the putting in place of the new commission headed by a chairperson, a deputy chairperson, and 5 other commissioners. It is my pleasure to inform the public that a Cameroonian, a lady, was elected as one of the commissioners in charge of infrastructure. So it's a very important summit. There is a new system of rotation of the chairperson, and the next chairperson would be the Republic of Congo. And thereafter it will continue alphabetically.
Cameroon's Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngute speaking there at the end of today's teleconference deliberations. The departing head of the European Union delegation to Cameroon was at the Unity Palace this Thursday. Hans-Peter Schadek came to bid farewell to the head of state through the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Ngonga. The two personalities reviewed the different areas of cooperation between Cameroon and the European Union, as Chief Unity Palace correspondent Ashu Niente now reports.
It is tenure over for the head of the European Union delegation in Cameroon. It is for this reason that Hans-Peter Schadek is here at the Unity Palace this Thursday, 30th July 2020, to say goodbye to President Paul Biya through the Minister of State, Secretary General of the Presidency, on behalf of his principal, Ferdinand Ngonga, and his interlocutor in this farewell audience, review the depth of cooperation between Cameroon and the European Union. The European Union has always engaged Cameroon in political dialogue, as well as being a consequential economic partner. According to available statistics, the European Union is Cameroon's most important economic bloc, receiving half of Cameroon's exports, while 1 in every 3 commodities imported into Cameroon comes from this body.
We have the Economic Partnership Agreement in place, which offers good framework conditions. The access for Cameroonian goods to Europe is guaranteed, tax-free and quota-free, and that's what we can do more. And of course, European companies are also interested to invest here, to create jobs, to create value added on the spot, and that's an important area of cooperation.
The departing head of the European Union delegation, who considers it an honor to be so received as he rounds off his 2-year diplomatic tour of duty, keeps a positive impression about this country. The European Union former top diplomat in Cameroon leaves the country with the hope that relations between Yaoundé and Brussels will continue to grow by leaps and bounds.
Cameroon joins the rest of the African continent tomorrow to observe the 58th edition of the African Women's Day, an event that will run on the theme, the African woman and the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic. Ahead of commemorative activities, the Minister of Women's Empowerment and the Family, Marie-Theresa Benaoundou, made a declaration before the press in Yaoundé today, during which she encouraged the women to keep respecting COVID-19 barrier measures. She also expressed delight at the realization of set objectives over the past decade. Here now is an excerpt of the minister's declaration as cut out for us by Yoti Kaleli Songe.
I thus wish to seize the opportunity of this commemoration to remind women and families about the imperative need to strictly abide to all barrier measures against coronavirus. The African Women's Decade 2010-2020 is coming to its end. The balance sheet of actions undertaken in order to meet the set objectives are quite satisfactory in our country. Among these are the reinforcement of the national legal framework of gender equality, the empowerment of women's access to decision-making.
This year, 2020, marks the end of the African Women's Decade instituted by the United Nations to accelerate action in favor of gender equality and women's empowerment in Africa. Women's Day. As the continent goes celebrating Women's Day come tomorrow, women rights defenders say a lot has been done to place women's issue on board, but their aspirations to gender equality, land access, financial autonomy and key decision-making positions is still hanging on the balance. Beatrice Losamba reports that the new emancipated African woman is coming out of her shell and yearning for her potential to be fully exploited.
From 19 female MPs to 61 10 years later, from 22 female mayors to 37 today, women's rights activists say they are reaping benefits of liberation struggles. But with women occupying less than one-third of these positions, the playground needs to be leveled even further, they say.
Legislation does not yet take into account these differences. Why not even the parity that the African Union preaches? If that legislation was to be, enacted, Cameroonian women will come out.
Many Cameroonian women today are no longer just contented with their high positions next to their spouses, but they aspire to key ministerial posts, financial autonomy, and access to land.
Customary laws hinder the emancipation of the woman. Women are a majority of the subsistent farmers in Cameroon, but they lend this land, they borrow from men to farm on. We also need regulatory bodies. We also need specific regulations to target the fact that the access to land and the access to property, the access to credit for women is not an easy matter.
Educating women to reach their full potential is next on gender activists' agenda. Meanwhile, they also hold that women would reach their aspirations by fixing each other's crowns.
Plans are underway to dismantle the ferry over the Sanaga in Nakchigal and have it remounted in Gerima over the Mbam River in replacement of the one that sank 2 weeks ago, interrupting movement in the area. The decision was announced today by Public Works Minister Emmanuel Nganu Jumese as he made a stopover in the locality while on an evaluation visit of some maintenance work on the Lablengora Road in the Mbam and Inubu division. Joyce Kimbi Fawaju was with the minister on the trip.
The mostly peasant population of Dek subdivision have resorted to crossing the Mbam River by boat to market their harvest in Bafia after the river swallowed the ferry 14 days ago.
The boat is more expensive. With loads, we pay 2,000 francs, but in the ferry, we only give a small tip. A bunch of plantains cost 200 francs to cross by boat.
Plights that will certainly be short-lived as the minister in charge brings in the solution of bringing another ferry from the Nakchigal to the side.
Following the decision of the heads of state, we have already identified another ferry. Will be constructed here in 30 days' time. I've brought with me the engineer in charge, and the work will start after tomorrow.
Ending with this meeting, during which locals appreciated the gift of the ferry while creating a committee of inquiry to establish blames on why the ferry sank.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
And you're watching the 7:30 news on the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV. We are beaming live from Yaoundé. Time for us to open our slot on Thursday in the region, and the region on the spotlight today is the Northwest region. The execution rate of public investment projects in this part of the country stands at 10.17%, 6 months into the 2020 financial year. Officials in charge of the execution and control of earmarked projects in the region blame the low rate on the security challenges and inaccessibility to project sites dotted all over the region. Ola Titanki of CRTV Northwest has the first-hand appraisal of the situation as it obtains on the ground.
The 51 kilometers Babaju-Bamenda stretch, previously covered in an hour's drive, is now extended to several hours of back-breaking ride. Its smooth construction has been made tedious by years of sluggish maintenance work, which has gotten into an extreme snail pace.
For you to get into the hinterlands of the Northwest Road region, you need the ring road. The region has financing, but insecurity also is causing its slowness in awarding the contract.
Regular roadblocks by suspected separatist militia have rendered the transportation of construction material to the suburbs of the region challenging.
If you take the road towards Fundok, it is blocked. If you take the road towards west, which is through Nakba, it is blocked. How do we come up with cement, rods, plywood, zinc into Donga Mountain?
Delays in the award of contracts have also contributed to the region's poor execution track record. The hitches are many, but members of the follow-up committee are determined to reverse the trends and give a new impetus to the execution of public investment projects by the end of the year.
And stakeholders in the execution and control of the public investment projects in the region have the challenge to overcome the fear syndrome and collaborate with the local inhabitants in order to reverse the low execution rate. This is the message the chairperson for the participatory follow-up of the projects in the Northwest region, Honorable Walang Richard Eboa, gave them during the mid-term evaluation session of the project's execution in Bamenda. Eric Lamia Wufo reports on how to boost the PIB execution rate in the region.
The members of the Participatory Follow-up Committee for the Execution of Public Investment Projects in the Northwest have the task of winning the hearts of the people.
One of their problems is unemployment. You, a contractor, you go to a place to work and you take the local population that they should be inclusive. That's already a problem that you have solved.
To those who are struggling to use our children, who are the first beneficiaries of this project, to stop it, because at the end of it, the innocent population is the one called upon to suffer.
Defeating the fear syndrome imposed here by separatist fighters is paramount to the execution of public investment projects in the Northwest. The actors have to be present at the construction sites.
If there are a few miscreants who are working for their individual interests, continue to disturb contractors. Therefore, all of us have to go to the field.
Apart from the 559 projects earmarked for the Northwest region in 2020 to the tune of over 9 billion francs CFA, the region is also to benefit from the presidential plan to reconstruct the Northwest and Southwest regions.
It will come alongside with the much-needed peace.
Midway to the execution of the public investment projects in the region, the physical execution rate stands at 10.1% and the financial execution at 7.3%.
On to other developments now. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General René-Claude Meka, has had a working session on the state of security in the East region of Cameroon with the commanding officers of the 1st Combined Military Region. He was received in Bertoua yesterday by the commander of the 12th Motorized Infantry Battalion, Brigadier General Numa Joseph. Mokom Robert Achu reports from CRTV East.
The Chief of Army Staff, General René-Claude Meka, is accompanied to the East region by an impressive staff. Together with his collaborators in the East region, they had a closed-door working session at the present temporary structure housing the 12th Military Brigade. Certainly, issues under discussions have to do with the security situation in the East region that shares borders with the Central Africa and Congo republics, so that measures be put in place to ensure the security of inhabitants and their properties in this part of the country. Following the in-camera discussion was a visit to the new structure under construction that would host the 12th Military Brigade. It is a story building in the Kume Bonis neighborhood where the 12th Infantry Brigade has been offered an 18-hectare plot for the military to be better installed and ensure the security of inhabitants in the East region.
Public health officials are calling on the Muslim faithful to respect anti-COVID-19 measures as they prepare to celebrate the Feast of the Ram tomorrow, Friday. In the prayer grounds, like in their homes, they are expected to observe physical distancing, wear their mask and wash their hands with soap and running water. We now join Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Eric Tandy from the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with more on the practical measures for tomorrow's celebrations. Hello, Baldwin. Good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening to you, Ben Menopufong, and given that we're a few hours to the celebration of the Feast of the Ram by Muslim faithful, and that is why public health experts see this as an opportunity that the COVID-19 can easily be spread through these different gatherings that we'll have by Muslim faithful and equally Christians who have to celebrate alongside some Muslim faithful, and that's why they're calling on these Muslim faithful this Friday nationwide to respect all these barrier measures that will go a long way to avoid further contamination and the spread of COVID-19. That is what we shall be discussing with Dr. Eric Tandy, a public health expert who is our guest tonight. Good evening, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening, buddy.
Tell us, how should Muslim faithful celebrate the Feast of the Ram this Friday in order for them to avoid further contamination or the spread of COVID-19?
That's right. Despite the fact that we have a higher percentage of recovery, and I see some people celebrating this. Yes, celebrating this will right because we're trying to come out from this, but it doesn't mean that we have to stop respecting barrier measures. We need to increase this percentage. Why not even having 100%? Then as we have the celebration of Muslims tomorrow, we're urging everyone not to neglect and be excited. We know that a lot of people have been in confinement and in homes for a while, and it's a moment that they can be tempted, to go a little bit astray from respecting barrier measures. Here I'm calling on all the Muslims, especially during the preparation to get to the prayer ground. And after the prayer ground, don't forget, before we used to have very huge celebration, which we neglect. We do a kind of hugging and celebrating together. But then they have to respect all barrier measures put in place, especially the use of face masks and respecting physical distancing, what we've been observing that is absent, so that we could push this percentage a little bit closer to a complete 100%. And again, they should be very careful, especially during evening hours where we see rough celebration and without respecting barrier measures. And just to conclude by saying that I wish all the Muslim community and also those who are celebrating with them a happy feast day, but respect barrier measures, which is the key.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eric Tandy. Barrier measure is the key. They should not only respect these barrier measures this Friday during their celebrations, but they should continue respecting the barrier measures every other day. Back to you, Ben Menopufo.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, for those updates. And the barrier measures remain key to succeeding the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic in Cameroon. And the Fon of Santa, His Royal Highness Z.S. Gafobe V, says the livelihood of the inhabitants of his fondom have drastically improved since the arrival of the humanitarian organization Plan International Cameroon in the area. He made the remarks during a donation of non-food and sanitary items to families and children affected by the current socio-political crisis in the region. From Bamenda, Karin Tosam reports.
Has been in crisis and families victims. Children's rights have been violated and tales of gender-based violence abound. For close to 1 year, they've been on a mission to provide care, psychosocial support and protection to children and adolescents.
International is the only international humanitarian organization working in Santa Mefobe. With support from the European Union, we've been able to reach to 26,000 people across the Northwest region. Today, we were doing a dignity kit and hygiene kit for adolescent boys and girls attending the CFSs.
The train in motion meets its vision. Community volunteers have been raised to uphold children's rights and child-friendly spaces created.
I just pray that may the God Almighty give them the strength to do all the work, give them the knowledge to teach us more and more of everything on the world. And we want to say thank the Plan International very much for everything they have done, because all the things that are inside the bags, we have Omo, we have Savon, we have toothbrush, we have towel, we have loins, and we have many other things.
The child-centered non-governmental organization Plan International Cameroon has reached out to 4 communities in Santa subdivision. And together, its drive to achieve lasting change in affected areas has been attained.
Since Plan International came here in Mefobe, our children, their behavior, their characters have changed. So I have all the reasons to thank Plan International.
They have been carrying out humanitarian activities. About 4 villages have benefited, and I'm overwhelmed by their gesture.
With young girls and boys in Santa empowered, the organization prepares to move elsewhere. Its plan is to stop not until girls everywhere can learn, lead and thrive.
And as you heard in our lead stories, Muslims in Cameroon will be joining their counterparts the world over tomorrow in celebrating the Feast of the Ram, which constitutes one of the pillars of the Muslim faith. At the Briqueterie neighborhood here in Yaoundé that harbors a huge Muslim following, spiritual and material preparations are being concluded in readiness for tomorrow's feast. Beatrice Ngum caught up with some 3 Muslim faithful in the preparation fever, with whom she now recounts the place of Eid Mubarak in their spiritual journey.
The Eid ul-Adha feast is gradually taking shape in this home in the Briqueterie neighborhood. In the Salisus, little tips on the foretaste of what the feast will look like on D-Day are visible. Imam Amadou Salisu, the father of the house, is stepping into the Tabaski spiritually prepared.
On this eve of Tabaski, which is also the day of Arafat, we fast in the morning. I woke up and went to the mosque for prayers. I am a tailor, so when I came back, I went to my workshop.
The day before the feast continues with a discovery of the festive side of the Tabaski. Aissatu takes us into the material world, but says it will be low-key due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are doing our shopping for tomorrow. My husband has already given the money. From here, I will go to the market, buy spices and drinks for visitors. On Tabaski Day, I will cook mutton meat, chicken, spaghetti, and lots more. COVID-19 restrictive measures, which will compel the feast to be low-key, but will not stop the ram from being slain.
The Director General of the Cameroon Radio Television, Charles Ndongo, has told students of the Congo-Cameroon Interstate University in Saint-Melima that the time for Africa to conquer the world is now and that the continent's greatest asset is its youths. Charles Ndongo was speaking today during a conference on the theme Digital Engineering, a Chance for African Youth, organized to mark the end of the pioneer semester of the Higher Digital Engineering School of the Interstate University. Pontianus Lawon reports from CRTV South.
It has been a memorable day at the Saint-Melima campus of the Cameroon-Congo Interstate University. The first ever semester draws to an end with a conference packed on the theme Digital Engineering, a Chance for African Youth. As guest speaker, CRTV's Director General Charles Ndongo draws inspiration from his 40-year rich journalism career and worldwide travels to assure the students that they are not a sacrificed generation, but rather a generation served with a golden tool.
The world is completely changing, and what I appreciate a lot is that the general manager of CRTV gives them the key so that they can themselves open the doors of this new world.
Describing cyberspace as no man's land, he has warned against fake news, which he underlines pollutes and seeks to destabilize, disclosing that more than 65% of the world's population is connected to the World Wide Web.
If we have projects, the Director General of the CRTV said that we should not wait for things from the state. We should be the catalyst of our own growth.
So exists the maiden semester at the Congo-Cameroon Interstate University. The second begins in the third week of August.
The 7:30 news on the CRTV. That's the way it was this Thursday evening and for the week. Thanks for the thanks for the pleasure of your company. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.